This segment is brought to you in part by the Canadian Historical Arms Society, owners of the Genesee Range, the premier recreational sport and training facility in Western Canada. See us online at historical-arms.com.
The Quiet Professional, a podcast about law enforcement, security, justice, and politics. We are digging deeper on the issues and going where the information takes us with access to experts and authorities. Welcome to The Quiet Professional. Hey everybody, welcome back to The Quiet Professional. Today we are going to be talking about saving lives through joint operations that combat trafficking of illicit substances and human life. For that, I've got Ben Owen here. Little background on Ben. He is an infantry veteran, father to 8 children. With his wife Jessica, they are co-founders of the organizations Flanders Fields and We Fight Monsters. Ben and Jessica are both recovering addicts with a rough past, including drug arrests and homelessness, but they have transformed struggle into a force for good. Now they are dedicated to combating opiate and fentanyl addiction and sex trafficking in the U.S. Mid-South, tapping into experiences from running safe houses during the Afghanistan evacuation. Ben and Jessica now establish sober living homes in the U.S. through conversion of dope houses into recovery spaces. We got to talk about that one more too. I think that's really cool. Working together with agencies and street gangs, they embody hope and recovery, turning their once perilous paths into lifelines for others. So welcome, Ben.
Appreciate you having me here, buddy.
Yeah, thank you for being on here. I do want to, we usually start just kind of by talking about the individual themselves, but I don't think I could do you justice compared to your discussion on the Sean Ryan show. And I'll let you know, I listened to it twice. So that's 10 hours of
Are you
podcast.
serious?
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. Thank you. That seriously, that means the world to me, man. Thank you.
I've been telling people that you're coming on the show here and just some of the experiences that you kind of bring up in there and that you relate to. And just some of the stuff I've been working on and gone through working in our gang suppression unit, all the stuff with drugs, human trafficking, the experiences you have, and just you're bringing it from the other side. I thought like I had to listen to it twice. It also helps me just kind of research people before they come on. So I wanted to ask you though, like, what's your experience when you go on those shows? Because doing a 5-hour podcast, that's long. And I know they do breaks in there, but what's the whole experience like?
So interestingly, it used to scare the hell out of me, man. Like people hear me say this, nobody believes it, but I've got stage fright and social anxiety like a mofo. Um, I've struggled with anxiety like my whole life. That was actually the impetus for me to start drinking. Um, and so it was a very nerve-wracking experience, especially going on Sean Ryan. I mean, the guy's, he's huge. So I'm going to be honest, I was terrified. But going through that one, it really broke the ice for everything after that. Like I made it through it, and Sean's just a really easy guy to talk to. I don't remember if we talked about it on the podcast, but I know Sean. I met him about a year before I went on a show. I actually introduced him to Legend, the Afghan American that went on there.
I think you mentioned that.
The redacted his face. Yeah. Okay. So it was kind of, I guess it wasn't as scary as it would have been if I hadn't already met Sean and had a little bit of rapport with him. But I don't know. I mean, you're going to go on there and talk about the worst days of your entire life with somebody you don't know, and the whole world's going to see it. No pressure, right? I mean, and then if you watched it twice, this. Like I spent 4.5 hours making myself sound like the worst human being that's ever walked the face of the earth. And then at the end, I remembered, oh yeah, we've done some good stuff too. Let me talk about that now. But and so I've tried to get better about that as I've done more interviews. I like trying to focus on the positives rather than just the backstory. You know what I mean? Because we've all got war stories, man. We could all, tell horrendous, gut-wrenching, bloody stories for days. But what good is that if you don't have the redemption story to go with the scar stories? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So trying to focus on the positives we're doing today rather than just, beaten to death that same old story that a million people have about suffering through, addiction, homelessness, alcoholism, in and out of jail, all that stuff.
Are you out there for the whole day? Are you out there the day before and you get to spend the night there? Like how Because I know you take breaks, right?
Um, we went in the night before. I forget, we were already over there for something. Like, it ended up just working out perfect. I got a little Airbnb in Franklin. I love Franklin, Tennessee, by the way. If I ever leave North Georgia, that's where I'm going. Um, but yeah, Jess won't let us move back to Memphis. I've been trying that. So now I like commute 1,000 miles a week.
Yeah.
It's it sucks. But and then yeah, we're there the whole day. I think we stayed that night too because we ended up going so long. We went like it was 5.5 hours of film, but to do that, we went like 7 hours or something, and we ended up starting late that day too. So I think we stayed that night.
Do you cut some content from it? Like it made the discussion was actually longer and you end up cutting some out?
No, just for breaks.
Okay,
They actually, dude, the stuff I thought they were going to cut, they didn't cut it. Yeah, but I was like, oh no. Like,
It's uncensored.
I said some stuff on there I wished I hadn't said.
That's one of the things I did want to ask about is like when you do those and just about your personal experience opening up like that, especially on a forum such as this where the world can hear you. It's not even a conference where you might have 100 people. It's like the world.
The world.
And to be so vulnerable on that, what has that done for you?
Interestingly, it's not even the vulnerable side of it that I wish that I was scared of. It was, see, now I got to choose my words carefully. So we obviously work with law enforcement like that gets talked about primarily in the child exploitation and sex trafficking space. I spend most of my time working with drug dealers, gang members, trying to get them on a better path. So if I publicly say something and I don't word it right about working with law enforcement, next time I hit a trap house, I'm at risk of getting shot in the back of the head. Okay. And those are the things like I wish I had chosen my words a little more carefully because and everybody on the streets of Memphis knows this. I'm not trying to get dope boys rolled up. I'm trying to get them out of trouble.
Yeah.
Because those are the guys we can't change the inner city without them leading that charge. I'm a 44-year-old white guy covered in tattoos. I can't reach a 16-year-old inner city black kid the same way a dope boy or an OG can. And you know this. So I'm always trying to flip those guys. So it's not so much saying things that I would find embarrassing or that I'm remorseful about. Like I try to be as open as I possibly can about that stuff because otherwise my story is not going to reach everybody it could reach. And I want what I lived through to help as many people as I possibly can. And that requires being uncomfortably open about a lot of it. And that has gotten easier. The more of these podcasts I've done, I think, without a doubt, the Sean Ryan episode was the most open and thorough I've ever told my story. And we still barely scratched the surface. Yeah. I mean, there's just so much to unpack. 44 years of chaos. You know what I mean?
There's a few parts in there where you even say, like, we won't go into this story, or I don't want to get into that. So yeah, there is other pieces that were left out, and understandable. But yeah, I mean, it was a good insight into some of the reality that is out there for, I'm going to say, a lot more individuals than people might realize. Like, a lot of people live in their bubble, right? It's like, if my block is good, that's how the rest of the city's good, and the world might be that good. Right. You're like, no, there's some harsh realities for people. So
it doesn't matter how small your town is, you've got it in your backyard, and people don't realize that, and that's fine. They don't have to. I want kids to be able to live, a sheltered existence, but I think for parents and caregivers to turn a blind eye to the reality that exists in everybody's backyard is a dangerous, dangerous thing.
With your background, and before we just kind of get into a little bit of that, I'm wondering, so you got 8 children. How do you talk to them about, do you talk to them about your past a lot, or do you just kind of focus on the future and say like, hey, here, don't do drugs or whatever it might be for these reasons?
I mean, obviously, don't do drugs. Drugs are bad. So I've got 5 kids with my ex-wife. I've got 2 with Jess. I adopted 1, and then we actually say we've got 9 kids now because we've got an Afghan that we got here during the evacuation that we're now putting through medical school. So we definitely count her as a child. So 9 kids, really. The 5, with my ex-wife, they lived through a lot of the chaos with me. And so not addressing what happened, that was never an option. They went from having an awesome dad that was the scout coach or scoutmaster, T-ball coach, Sunday school leader, to now dad's in and out of jail. And then where's dad? So that period of chaos in their lives had to be dealt with. So we're very open about that. I think 3 of my kids with Erin, that's my ex-wife, have read our book, so like they know a lot. James, mine and Jessica's oldest son together, our oldest child together, he's 9, and I mean he lived in the truck with us, man. So he was like right in the middle of all of it. And then Ava, I mean, she's 5, so I don't have to talk to her about any of that. She's never known an addicted parent, you know. But the biggest thing is like we talk to them overwhelmingly more about the work we do today than we do about the past, because the biggest dangers to them it's the second and third order effects of alcoholism and addiction. Where you can end up, not necessarily where I ended up, but where these girls that were out there trying to recover end up. The dangers of online predators, like just how ugly the world we live in can be if you don't have guardrails up and if you're not aware of it.
Yeah. You know what? It just makes me think of how I talk to my kids about it. So I've got 2 boys, they're 8 years old, and you know, they obviously know I'm a police officer. They've seen all the cool cars and all that stuff, like the usual stuff that kids want to see. But I go and talk to them in a different way than I think a lot of other parents because of the experiences. So, lots of parents will
Mm-hmm.
say to their kids, they don't swear. And then they just kind of leave it at that. And I'll say, well, you can say these words, but they mean this context. And I take a lot of that from
Right.
just how I talk to people and how I was taught to talk to people. Because I can go from talking to a doctor to an informant to someone in a courtroom. It's like context matters. The certain words you use matters. So yeah, I can really understand what you're saying with that. I think that's a good way to put it. And the second and third order consequences, like people don't realize that. They just give you the quick answer or just tell their kids, yeah, don't do drugs. But why? Like,
Yeah, it's never you just do drugs and get addicted and it sucks. There's a lot more to it than that, and it's invariable. You are going to all of these things will happen, if you go down that path. And I mean they get to see it. Like our kids hit the streets with us a lot.
okay, that's what I was going to ask. Yeah.
So yeah, they're out there with us, so they get to see a lot of it. And that might sound, I don't know, irresponsible or stupid to some people, but they get to see a lot more than just like the end result of addiction or the end result of violent crime. They get to see that not all these people out there are bad people. Even if they're out there doing bad things, a lot of them are just broken. They're lost. They need somebody to believe in them. And you, as a police officer, I know you get that. Like I'm sure you've had to arrest plenty of people that after you take them and book them, and you're like, yeah, that's a good dude. That sucks. I hope he changes things.
Yeah.
And we see that all the time with our law enforcement friends in Memphis. Like and so that's been one of the most rewarding things for us, I think, is getting to see the cops that used to arrest me call us when they have somebody that won't stop doing dumb stuff.
Yeah.
That we're able to, try to intervene at that point. And a lot of times we're successful, a lot of times we're not. But the fact that I would say the majority of law enforcement officers that have been on the force more than 2 or 3 years, they all think like that. They understand that it's not just a bunch of bad guys. It's a bunch of broken people.
Yeah, some of the best relationships I've ever made or conversations I've had out of this whole entire job are after I've been in a fight with somebody. One in particular sticks out in my mind. Tasered a guy. This is years ago. Tasered the guy. He his bicep exploded because another member was holding his arm, and he squeezed too hard, and he just ruptured his bicep. Anyways, I sat in the hospital with him for 8 hours. Guy was like my best friend. We were talking about his whole
That's
life,
all.
all kinds of stuff. And it's like, hey, we're not here to make enemies or consider you the other side. There are the true psychos out there and stuff, but
Yeah,
a lot of
absolutely.
these guys and girls, it's like there's just so much going on. There's a lot happening, and yeah, it's just interesting when you actually get to talking with some people if you're open minded about it. So.
Yep.
Can we talk a little bit about your background, though? If for listeners who aren't familiar
Yeah,
with
as
you,
much as you want.
maybe give them a bit of a rundown of just some of the background and what led you to where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I despite ending up homeless and addicted, I actually come from a very good family. My parents are still married. When I was born, my dad was an Army Ranger. My mom was an industrial engineer. So I won't say I grew up with a silver spoon in my mouth or anything like that, but I definitely didn't like have unmet, basic needs. Life was good growing up. I was exceptionally gifted, which ended up being a curse because it wasn't cool back then to be a nerd. Now it's cool, like everybody's good with that. But back then, I got picked on a lot. Which by the time I was, I guess, 13, I'd started acting out because I was tired of the nerd identity that I had been so wrapped up in my whole life. And we moved out to California. And I don't know if it was the move or puberty or what, but I started struggling with anxiety really, really big. That's when I first discovered alcohol. And I discovered that alcohol can change the way I feel on demand. It was beautiful. It was amazing. It was like what I'd been missing my whole life, So 13 years old, I started struggling with legit alcoholism. I ended up getting sent to a rehab for 10 days. I ran away so many times. I turned that 10-day stay into 90 days. And then they finally just sent me to Utah, to one of those places they made the Netflix documentaries about. Yeah. I was supposed to be out there for 18 months, but I do not respond well to other people controlling my life. I need to have control. And so when I realized I wasn't getting out of this place, I started towing the line, playing the game, buying into what they were putting down. And I ended up getting out of there in 9 months. We moved back to Alabama. Went back, to school, ended up graduating high school with honors, got a math scholarship to Auburn. But as soon as I got to Auburn, I started drinking again. And, it ended predictably bad. I was, I guess, my third semester, I was about to drink myself out, losing my scholarship and everything. And the towers came down on September 11th. And I was like, I'm just going to drop out of the list. I was already in ROTC, so I was planning on, following my dad's footsteps. And so I did. I dropped out and enlisted, and lied about everything to get in. I told them I never had any drug or alcohol problems, never had any injuries, never been on ADHD medication. Like, lied about everything I possibly could to get in, which ended up biting me in the ass about a year later, because I don't have an ACL to this day. I tore it playing football when I was 14. And that ended up screwing me. They knew that it was a pre-existing injury, so they basically honorably discharged me, but with no benefits whatsoever. Like, I can't go to the VA. I'm sure there's some way I could fight that, but
Essentially, that year is just like wasted, like it's just gone.
oh yeah. Like I ended up going right back to Auburn and proceeded to drink myself out, like I was already on track to do. Reconnected with an old girlfriend from middle school, got her pregnant. That ended up becoming my wife, who I've got 5 kids with. Went back, finished college. Pfizer Pharmaceuticals hired me as a sales rep, and that's what moved us to Memphis. Then I was still battling, the drinking. Ended up getting in a single car accident Easter Sunday of 2007. I got thrown out of the back windshield going like 130. Fractured my pelvis in 3 places, completely toasted what was left of my left knee. So like half my tibia is bone filler now. I had plates in, got a methicillin-resistant staph infection, almost lost it. But I got sober that day. And I stayed that way until like 2011 or 12. I don't remember the date because I wasn't taking like recovery seriously. I didn't go to meetings or anything like that. I quit smoking, cigarettes, quit drinking, everything. But at some point, like late 2011, early 2012, the MRSA infection came back, ended up back on pain meds, and then ended up getting addicted to the pain meds that the doc was prescribing to me. By the summer of 2013, it had progressed to pain pills that were prescribed, but not to me. And then by Halloween of 2013, it had progressed to heroin. So the progression went really, really quick. I got arrested for the first time in July of 2014, and that started basically a 5-year period of me just in and out of jail all the time. Aaron filed for divorce in 2014. I met Jess in early 2015. In recovery, I was sober. So that 5-year period of 2014 to 2019, I had more days clean than I had using, but I was burning my life to the ground the whole time. Like I was trying really, really hard to get clean and stay clean. Just couldn't make it happen. And, eventually Jess and I both relapsed, ended up losing our house, started a couple new businesses, got a bigger house, burned that to the ground too, lost the businesses, ended up homeless. Yeah, I mean, so like we went through the ringer,
Yeah.
man, in a very short period of time. So I've had this weird experience that it's a little bit unique, to me when I'm looking at the addicts we're trying to work with in South Memphis, and that I've tasted success. Before I became destitute, homeless, junkie, I'd worked for Fortune 500. I was college educated.
Yeah.
I've got military service. I've done X, Y, and Z. And I think that gave me a little bit of a leg up when I finally did hit rock bottom in 2019. I was able to rebuild very quickly. But I had a lot of survivor's guilt about that. Like I don't know why I'm still here. My best friend is, in a Ziploc bag in my glove box. That sucks. And so you probably heard me talking about this with Sean Ryan. We had this foxhole prayer the last 6 months of 2019. Justin and I did that, if God would get us out of hell together, we'd spend the rest of our lives coming back for the people we left behind. And so that's what we finally started doing in 2021. We'd gotten business back off the ground. We had more than we needed. We had downtime. These are dangerous things for us. We've figured that out the hard way.
You got to stay busy.
If I've got money in the bank and time on my hands, that's the recipe for disaster. So we started the first nonprofit, Flanders Fields, with the intent of helping vets battling opiate addiction. And then if you haven't figured this out by now, I've got weaponized ADHD, which makes me very subject to shiny object syndrome and squirrels. And in 2021, we had that. Afghanistan collapsed, and I got asked to help with that. And so next thing I know, Jess and I have stood up a network of like 60 plus safe houses, 8,500 miles away from home. We're running evacuations, working on immigration issues, resettling our Afghan allies once they got to America. And then we did some work on the initial defense of Ukraine, funded demining operations over there. We've done stuff in Haiti, Ecuador, Mexico.
You ever,
Africa.
like at any point, I just feel like, with your past and all the things you went through, and again, people like they got to listen to the Sean Ryan show because it's 5.5 hours. 4.5 of it is like on your background, and the amount of stuff is just crazy. And to now be where you are, operating in the countries you are, like just the scope of what you're able to do, um, it's just like the most mind blowing thing to me. I don't know how you feel about it.
You want me to answer that honestly?
Yeah.
Like I might sound kind of crazy when I say this out loud, but like I wonder sometimes if I'm actually dead and all of this is a dream state. Because you're right, none of this should be possible. It doesn't make any sense, and it just keeps getting wilder and wilder every day. We went to the White House back in September.
Oh, really? Okay.
To talk to the Homeland Security Council about sending a task force to Memphis. And guess who's in Memphis now?
Wow.
Like it's crazy the amount of things that we're able to touch and influence. And I don't see, there's no humanly way any of it's possible. So I sometimes I really do feel like I might be dead and none of this is real. But it keeps happening.
That's the thing. And I would say the same about even just doing this podcast. Like I'm in policing world, the law enforcement side of things. And I look at like a lot of the coworkers I have and stuff, and they get into certain things, but it's always kind of like along the lines of law enforcement. It's always like, I'm going to be in tactics training, or I'm going to be teaching people about sex trafficking or whatever it might be. And I started this podcast because I wanted to get more stories out, and I didn't think the front line was, justice was being done for them and being able to speak on certain things. But man, like just the one thing leads to another. You just kind of keep following down the rabbit hole. You just kind of reach out, talk to certain people, and they're like, "Hey, you need to talk to this guy for these reasons."
Yep. That's exactly
Yeah,
right.
it just keeps going, and it's like all of a sudden you're doing things that it's like I've talked to people I would have no business in any other life talking to.
Bingo. You get it. You get it.
So
yeah. I wonder, like it seems like people that are very committed and dedicated to service of others, trying to put good back into the world. It seems like we have an easier time getting lucky, if that makes sense. Things just seem to work out for us.
I think if you have that, I don't want to say it's like I don't know if it's a personality thing, but it's if you're just open you spend a little bit of your time, one of the hardest resources to come by, but you spend a little bit of your time and you're open to those discussions, to hear people from different walk of life, like whatever it might be. That's the thing that opens all the doors for somebody.
Absolutely. It all comes into human connection, man.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm sure you get to leverage that in law enforcement all the time. Every call you go on could go south real fast, but if you connect with the person on the other side of that call on a human level, as soon as you get there, it's almost never going to go down the path you don't want it
Well,
to.
the biggest weapon is your mouth, right? It gets
100%.
you into
Yeah.
all the shit and it can get you out of a lot of shit.
Yeah.
And I've said it on here a bunch of times, but like being in the gang unit, we'd go into a lot of venues, lounges, nightclubs and stuff. There'd be like 6 of us. We go deal with a whole group. There'd be like a big birthday party. There'd be 20, 30 guys in there. Some of them have guns. You're like, well, I'm
Yeah.
outnumbered. I'm probably outgunned because somehow they always have fancier tools than us. And it's like, what am I going to do in here? Well, start relationship building. And sometimes, yeah,
Yeah.
you got to let them slide and like, I can't get you today, but I'll get you some other day. And but it's your mouth, it's using your brain, your wits, but it's a connection. So,
Connection is everything, man. And that's, if I had to pick the one singular thing that has let us accomplish all the crazy stuff we've accomplished all around the globe, it all comes down to human connection. That's it. I mean, connection is it's social currency, like trust. And if you can establish that early on in a trust depleted environment, and show up as somebody that is perceived to be there for the people suffering in that environment, you can literally move mountains. People will
yeah,
bleed for you. And I think that's society as a whole in America and Canada and Afghanistan. It doesn't matter. Society as a whole is ready for that. We've been getting, pumped all this manufactured hate and division from the media, especially you guys, in law enforcement.
yeah.
All this, at least in America, all this us versus them mentality.
Same up here.
It's all manufactured. The thing that frustrates me the most is like I never run into that on the streets. It's always on the news. It's on the TV. But when I'm out there in the hood on the streets dealing with cops and bad guys and prostitutes, and the list goes on and on, we all get along.
Yeah.
We're able to talk and try to come to agreements on what's best for our community.
You know,
And I think that's something that the human race craves right now. We crave that collaboration, the connect. We were designed to be connecting creatures.
you know what that well, I guess that's why podcasts are kind of taking off too, because people are going back to
100%.
that long form discussion. They want to hear intelligent conversation. I want to get out of
Yes.
the headlines and the clickbait and this divisiveness that, yeah, it's pumped out there. And, we have the same battles, the same challenges with politicians and special interest groups. And it's like, I talked to my big thing for the last few years has been like working with informants. So I'm working with people on the other side of the law. And it's funny because sometimes we'll go back and forth and I'll flip them just some media thing, like a news article or something, be like, you believe this? And they're like shooting the shit with you, just going like, that's so stupid. Like the community doesn't think that of you, or like, all the race relations and all that. I'm just like, oh
Yeah.
man.
Well, I mean, storytelling is ingrained in our DNA. The intelligent, connecting conversation around a campfire goes back 70,000 years in the human race. My buddy Scott Mann,
Yeah.
Special Forces Lieutenant Colonel, talks about this all the time. Like, there's actually science behind it. It is the fastest way to build trust with anybody. Is sharing some scar stories. And that's one thing that I think is universal. It doesn't matter what demographic you get a call to deal with. You've both been scuffed up at some point in life. And if you guys can connect around the trauma
Yeah.
of any sort, it makes the rest of that interaction go so much smoother.
I was going to ask about your interactions with law enforcement. So prior experiences, did you have anybody that really stood out, or was there do you still work with some of those people today? Like, was there some good relationships there?
Yeah, but our strongest relationship with law enforcement in Memphis is the West Tennessee Violent Crime and Drug Task Force, which is actually the agency that arrested me on my big felony warrant that I was running from.
Okay.
And like today, these guys are legit some of my best friends. They come out to all of our events. They serve food next to gang members and drug dealers, and they just love on people. They're getting toys for us to give out to kids in the hood in South Memphis. Like we go to MMA fights together. It's these guys are legit some of our best friends, and they're like we hang out with them and their wives too. So it's really weird the way that that it all kind of comes full circle. Same thing with the judges. The judge that tried to send me to prison and gave me a $200,000 bond for having my own drugs. Like he and I text now. His wife wishes me happy birthday.
Wow.
So like it's weird how much everything can kind of come full circle and give you closure if you just put the effort into getting it.
Yeah.
Because if I'm being honest, reaching back out to that judge in particular and some of these cops in particular, that it was about closure for me. It wasn't about clout or cred or any of that. I just needed that closure. I needed them to know that they left a mark on me and I learned my lesson. And the fact that they wanted to come alongside us and help us do the work we're doing today with the understanding that I'm not trying to send fixable people to prison ever.
Yeah.
I never in a million years expected a cop to entertain, not much less entertain the idea, but like they're actually feeding people to us to help fit. It's crazy, And I think if we could get that kind of thing happening more and more in law enforcement across the country and across the world, I think we can fix a lot of these problems. The war on drugs in America has been an abject failure. If we could arrest our way out of it, that would have happened back in the 80s. The problem that you run into, it's not that law enforcement can't do the job. It's that any administration in this country will continue throwing billions and billions and billions of dollars at the problem, but they're not actually throwing it at solutions.
Yeah.
Most of the cops out there realize we have to do something different. The judiciary certainly recognizes that. The judges, the court staff, and so to that end, we work very closely with the drug courts too, and those are probably some of the most rewarding cases we get to deal with because it's guys that are and girls that are already on a better path than I was. I got kicked off a drug court. I was not cut out for it, and so I'm getting to. We'll have people come to our houses and, they think I'm like some big celebrity because I got a blue check and 100,000 followers. I'm like, dude, I'm just a crackhead from South Memphis. And then when I tell them, I got kicked out of the house you live in today. I made it 8 days in this house. I own it today. You were already on a better track than I was. It's like their mind is blown,
So do you find that the private side of it with the public agencies, do you run into any roadblocks with that? Or have you found that to be maybe people are more open to it down there? Because I think that's a roadblock up here that I'm trying to kind of harp on. I'm like, you talk to people from the community, you talk to people who are formerly in the life, journalists, like all these people have different access to different resources or different people that have things that could help. But man, when you talk about like just the bureaucracy, it's very siloed. They want to keep it in. They're like, whoa, we're not bringing those people in.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. It is very siloed. All of those parties that you just mentioned, they do have different points of access and that they can get to different people. What I think gets lost on our big bureaucracies is that they're all stakeholders. They're all stakeholders in the problem. And if you don't work with each and every stakeholder, you're never going to fix the problem. So, to answer your question, we ran into a lot of roadblocks in the beginning because I didn't understand how dynamics work in some of these agencies. That was my first problem. I had to learn that. And we learned a lot of that through Afghanistan and Ukraine because we were working with a lot of the three letters in the federal government. So we learned a lot of the power dynamics within those agencies. And once you kind of wrap your head around that, you start figuring out like who is going to be the best partner here. And so for us, HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, ended up being the best partner because they think outside the box. And so once we started a partnership with HSI, that led to partnerships with the other three-letter agencies.
It's like the right tool for the right time, right place.
That's exactly right. Especially on the human trafficking front, HSI knows what's up. They get it done. They're used to working with the public-private task force model. And I think really on any big societal issue, government can't fix them. The private sector can't afford to fix them. You have to have that marriage of public-private to get anything done.
You know why they can't fix it though? Maybe, and sorry to just cut you off there. It's because they're too big. They're not there at the ground level. Like if you actually want to deal with people,
that's exactly right.
You have to have somebody that's in the know at the human to human level, government's just like, here's the paycheck and now go fix it. Like, yeah,
That's
yeah.
exactly right.
So
And they throw money at the wrong solution a lot because they're not connected on the ground level. They don't know what the dynamics are in this neighborhood versus this neighborhood. You know, if you're trying to throw money at gang interdiction and you have no idea how those gangs even operate or interrelate,
yeah,
you're just wasting money. You're creating jobs for people to do nothing
yes,
or make the problem worse in some cases, you know? And so you've got to have that ground level access. That's why I'm such a huge proponent of grassroots movements. Like I think everything great that we need done in this nation is going to happen from the bottom up. You know, it doesn't mean that we don't want the federal government supporting, funding, providing oversight, those kinds of things. But when it comes to actual decisions at the ground level, you can't legislate addiction away from Washington, D.C. if you're trying to fix a problem in South Memphis. It's the same in Canada. I mean, this is the same everywhere. But again, like the more we have done what we're doing, the more we're seeing the appetite for this is there on the government and the private sector. Everybody wants to actually make a difference and end suffering, especially when it comes to human trafficking. It's like one of those issues that pretty much everybody can get behind.
yeah, yeah. Have you ever run into criticism of the ways that some of your business, like point there about converting the dope houses into the recovery spaces? And the reason I ask that is because uh, right behind our police headquarters here in Edmonton was our old remand center. And it's built to like withstand hurricanes. Like it's just solid concrete, rebar, everything. Like it ain't going anywhere. They finally just ended up tearing it down, but it's they were talking about housing some people in there from the community. I don't know exactly what they were all planning to do with it, but it was like we could have recovery center, some treatments in here, but there was a lot of voices in the community that were saying, well, you're just re-traumatizing people and you can't put them in a jail. It's like, I'm pretty sure they're going to take the bars off the jail cells. Like it's not, we're not
Right.
locking them in there, but you know, I just wonder, like, is it, you get any of that kind of stuff? You get any of that kind of feedback?
We do.
Yeah.
We do. And it's always from, you know, somebody that's like so far removed from the situation, they have no clue.
Yes.
I saw on social media, it was in Tennessee somewhere, not Memphis, but somebody's trying to create a detox center out of what used to be a jail. And there were a lot of those same complaints, you know, that it's just going to re-traumatize. And of course, they were going to take the bars off, you know, all that stuff. But I'm sitting there reading this, and it's all these people that are having these opinions, and you click on them. I've got no mutual friends with any of them, which tells me they're not in recovery. All right. So they're having such a strong opinion on a subject they've never endured. They've never lived through it. Meanwhile, in the comments, you know, I'm seeing people I know that are chiming in like, bro, when I was on the streets, I wouldn't have given a shit. You're going to put me in there with heat 3 meals a day and I can walk in and out as I please. Sign me
Yes.
up.
Yeah.
Sign me up, you know? When it comes to what we're doing, we've gotten in the beginning, we got pushback from the street gangs and dope boys. I mean, obviously, because we're trying to take food off their table, but they were concerned we were, you know, like setting up surveillance on the streets. Over time, as the dope boys have realized what we're actually doing, you know, that the resistance has definitely died down a lot. A lot. When we turned a brothel into a safe house for women and kids coming out of trafficking, and we caught hell for that one. We did. But that was a messaging failure on my behalf. We tore the house to the ground and built a brand new house. So it wasn't like I was sticking women back in the same rooms where, you know, maybe they had been trafficked at one point. So like there are valid concerns about that, but it's always coming from people that don't really have a stake in it, that they've got no lived experience. I can tell you, and I don't need to tell you because you're a cop and you know this, if you take a trap house and you shut it down, you have stopped 90% of that violent crime within a quarter-mile radius of that house. If you then turn that house into a recovery home where everybody in the block knows these people are now clean, they start watching out for that house.
Exactly.
You know, when we're renovating a new trap, if somebody breaks in at 2, 3 in the morning, a neighbor calls me to let me know. And these are on streets where nobody snitches, you know. And so we're able to go out there and have a conversation with whoever's trying to steal our stuff and, explain to them what we're doing. And then they watch out for it now,
Very cool.
So, uh, yeah, a lot of the pushback does come from people who have absolutely no idea what's going on.
What would you say is kind of your biggest success stories out of flopping like these homes from the bad side to the good side? And you know, is it you're obviously you've got a number of these now. Like, what's kind of been the most rewarding, I guess, scenario out of some of these?
It's so hard to pick just one, but the trap house that me and my wife almost died in. That was the first one we actually got back and shut down with the help of the two dope boys that used to run it. We got 3 siblings out of it into recovery. They're all still clean. Of those siblings, we also ended up with 3 generations of her family. So her child, and her grandchild fostered that kid for a summer while his parents got clean. Um, we then used the house to help a trafficking survivor get custody of her kids back, got them all the way on their feet, and moved them out. And now we're doing the exact same thing with the house again. That's probably like my favorite, just because of my history with that
Yeah.
house. I should have died in there. I really should have. And by the grace of God, I didn't. And being able to take that house and therefore that block over. Oh, and the two dope boys, both of them left the game. Got on a better path. We helped one of them start a business up. I think they both kind of backslid a little bit, but it's progress, not perfection, right? Just trying to take these properties and turn them into something that's helping make the community better, rather than something that's destroying it from the inside out. Like, we got 2 streets in South Memphis that used to be some of the most violent in the entire country, and now kids play outside on them, like throw basketball. They're hosting block parties. Nobody's shooting anybody. There's no fights, barbecuing together, and these are things that 5 years ago that would not happen in a million years. And so, being able to see kids grow up without the fear that used to run those streets, it's a huge, huge thing for
Yeah.
us.
You guys, oh man, you guys are doing such cool stuff down there. It's I just had a guest on recently, and he was part of a documentary called Nothing to See Here, Watts, and he's from South Central LA. Was a gang
Mhm.
cop there. You know who? Have you seen this at all? No.
No, but I know where you're talking
Okay.
about, though.
So yeah, he was doing something there, and they did like this documentary and gave people iPhones, and they had them out in the community recording their lives, and they put it all together, and it was people from rival gangs and people who've been victims, like moms who've had kids killed by the gang violence, and just I it's very inspiring to see some of the projects that everybody's been able to do, but it's people such as yourself who've been in the life, uh, people who are still in the life. In the case of that Watts documentary, you give some sort of autonomy to them. And I think that's what a lot of people are missing nowadays. They feel like they don't have control over anything, whether it's just the narrative of
Yep.
their life or, something physical like where I live, or a job. But as soon as you give them like a little bit of autonomy, they instantly can switch and just turn it into greatness. Like I don't know.
Yep.
I guess maybe you kind of see that, like you give people that little bit of hope.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But and I think that's one of the reasons that stories like that one and Watts and what we're doing, they get so much traction. We love an underdog story,
Yeah.
like, America and Canada both love underdog stories. And what better underdog is there than somebody that's coming off the streets and building a great life for themselves? And it really is almost like a switch flips. You give them just the smallest bit of purpose or autonomy, like you said, and it's like a light comes on in their head, and they realize, I don't have to live this way. There is a better opportunity. There is a different option for me.
Yeah. Am I the first podcast you've done, for Canada?
You are. Yeah, you are.
Perfect. You know what? We have the same issues up here, and I have a ton of American guests on both police side, obviously people who've been through a lot of these experiences, and I always wonder if, as Americans, if you realize the impact you have on the rest of the world, and not just through what the news tells you, but like truly at a ground level perspective. There's both good and bad, as we were saying kind of at the beginning.
Yeah,
Like a
definitely,
lot of the
definitely.
media narratives and things get exported up here, even though,
Yep.
things like race relations, they're not, it's not exactly the same. They're just different in some ways,
Yeah.
but a lot of the policing side of it, we have the same,
Yeah, I've got several friends that are
oh
RCMP,
yeah, okay.
and we worked with a lot of y'all's SF guys during the Afghan evac.
Okay, I imagine.
So I've got a huge spot in my heart for Canada. You guys are amazing, and yeah, you're absolutely right. The similarities between Canadians and Americans are like without the accent, you couldn't tell the difference between us in a lot of
That's just our East Coasters. Nobody can understand them anyway. So,
ways.
um, just because I want to make sure we get all this in the time that we got. And again, I'm appreciative of you coming on here. The two companies that are kind of closely related, but also you have Black Rifle Company. And I like how every time I look it up in brackets, not the coffee.
We had to do that on socials because every time the coffee guys would upset somebody, it would end up getting, we catch the
Oh,
blowback
really?
from it. But yeah, so
Oh,
I own a company called Black Rifle. It actually started back in 2011 as a gun e-commerce brand. So like we were selling, ammo, gun parts, all of that. Obviously, I ended up losing that brand during my addiction. We relaunched it like 2017, I think, during the whole bump stock fiasco. Made a ton of money, relapsed, burned it to the ground. So anyway, 2019 or maybe very early 2020, I started it back up. But this time, instead of gun ecom, I'm selling digital intelligence and running digital media campaigns for gun manufacturers. So the short way to explain it is we took all the consumer data that we had from, probably 100,000 e-commerce sales over time, and we analyzed what made all of those people unique.
mm,
All right. Everybody browses the internet in a unique way. And we figured out some tells that we could apply to the internet as a whole.
yeah.
And then we made this gigantic, monstrous data set for Black Rifle. And we are able to show gun companies, statistically speaking, these devices right here are going to buy your product if I put an ad in front of them. And it works very well. We do very well. That's how I actually make my living. I don't, I gave away half the company so that I could focus on the life-saving stuff in Memphis. So Black Rifle takes very little of my time.
Okay.
It keeps my bills paid, and it creates enough revenue to throw at the nonprofits too.
So
Uh,
nowadays, where would you spend the bulk of your time? Is it running the company or
on the nonprofit,
on the nonprofits?
100%.
Okay. Is it that busy? Like you get a lot of recommendation, a lot of referrals, hey?
Well, no, we're actually like going out there. We're doing counter trafficking ops. We're hitting the dope track, the hoe track. I mean, I spend an exorbitant amount of time on the nonprofit doing that work, or sitting on social media trying to raise money for the nonprofit. It's like it's exhausting. It's ungodly the amount of money that we spend on these things, and that's something I don't talk about enough. I don't take a paycheck from the nonprofit. I pay into it.
Yeah.
It's actually in our bylaws that Ben and Jessica will never be able to take a paycheck. They have to give to the nonprofit every month. And so that's where I spend most of my time, is just trying to keep all that work funded. We've got 10 houses in Memphis now. We're trying to open a 76,000 square foot treatment facility. I'm looking at a couple other buildings that are about a quarter of that size. Another one's half that size. Like I'm constantly trying to acquire real estate
Yeah.
as a means of area denial to keep bad actors where I want them, right? Not so that I can arrest them, just so that I can remove the financial incentive from them selling dope, so I can hopefully flip them to our side. And then we obviously need a lot of space for housing as people are coming off the streets and trying to rebuild their lives. That's a long process.
I feel like law enforcement should be 100% on board with this because it's like it's so hard to get somebody charges and to put them through court, and like it's so much money and so many resources. But if I have the ability to just tap into somebody and be like, go talk to them and just get them to like come to the
Yeah.
light, move out of the
Yep.
community, whatever it might be, and they do that, it's like okay, that's one less thing on my plate. Like, why wouldn't you want to do
That's
that?
exactly right. Like we're taking and so law enforcement definitely looks at it like that. Like they love what we do. Oddly enough, the dope boys look at it kind of the same way because they can make referrals to us. They got a problematic addict or a prostitute that's driving everybody crazy because they're shot off. That's an existential threat to a drug
Yeah,
dealer. If that person gets arrested, guess what? We already
flip.
know what you're
Yeah.
going to do with them. You're going to flip them. So the drug dealers and gang members will refer people to us too to get off the street and get help. And so it's great. Like we've got both sides of this issue helping us move the needle on it. And I really think we could see some sort of a renaissance in the addiction space here in the next year or so. We've already seen violent crime in Memphis drop by 60%. Carjackings are down 100%. And this is huge. I mean, these are big things. Like I've been saying for 3 years that we're going to get Memphis off the top 5 deadliest cities in America list. I think after getting that little bit of help from the White House, it might actually happen now. And then we just, blueprint the exact methods we use to do this and export it to the rest of the country.
Do you find is your when you're helping all these people get out of their life, like addiction, uh, is there a lot of veterans in there, or is it mostly people from streets, like not necessarily the veteran community?
It's mostly from the streets. Memphis does have a disproportionately high number of vets. I'm just going to shoot straight, and this is unpopular. I think I may have talked about it on the Sean Ryan show. It's incredibly difficult to get vets in America sober, and the reason it's not because they don't want it. It's because a lot of vets today have disability checks. They've got money coming in no matter what.
Yeah.
And for an addict or an alcoholic, that is damn near a death sentence, man. I don't know what the answer is. I'm not saying let's just take the disability. What I'm saying is like the fact that they have earned that pay for life, it is creating a great big giant barrier to them hitting rock bottom. So we do encounter vets. We do have great success with vets. I'm just saying, out of all the demographics we work with, we're the hardest ones to get sober and keep sober. And it just sucks. We have a great relationship with the Veterans Court in Memphis, though. Like we're housing people for them right now. And hands down, the vets are usually some of my favorite people to work with too.
Well, one thing I never thought about till I ran into some people on the street was we've had refugee people end up homeless here. Doesn't seem too hard for that to happen nowadays, but unfortunately, they end up homeless. And when you get to chat with them, again, the connection part, um, you've had some that are like child soldiers, or they've fought some other occupying force in their country, and then they come here, and I'm thinking like, man, nobody actually talks about that veteran community. Now that we're kind
Right.
of chatting about
And
this,
you, it's interesting you bring that up right now. So you saw what just happened in DC with the Afghan.
yeah, the shooting there, yeah,
So that was not radical Islam. That was not a terrorist. That was a combat vet with untreated PTSD that snapped and shot people. It's horrible, and he definitely needs the death penalty. But it begs the question: we imported all of these allies who spent their. This guy started fighting as a child for America in Afghanistan. We're bringing all these guys that we trained to kill and we paid to kill. We bring them to America, and we're not giving them. I don't know what the solution is. It's not like you could just let these guys enroll at the VA. I don't think.
yeah,
But like you're absolutely right. We have people that have endured extreme combat trauma that we're letting into our countries, and if we don't address that, don't be surprised when things like this happen.
yeah,
And that's yeah, me and you. If we'd gone to combat, it would have been that. People on the other side of the country, like they grow up in combat. I mean, other side of the world, they grow up in
yeah.
combat. They're carrying rifles at like 8, 10 years old. It is a completely different ballgame when you're dealing with Africa or Myanmar or Afghanistan and some of these places. And I don't know what the answer there is, but I think if we're going to continue, and obviously I'm an immigration advocate, I helped bring a lot of Afghans here, but if we're going to continue allowing immigration into our countries, we have to address some of these things. Some of the Haitians, we did an operation in Mexico in a Haitian camp. Bro, some of the things these kids down there have seen,
Yeah.
They scared me. I'm not going to lie. The kids, they scared the hell out of me. I don't know what the answer is there, but I know, and they're all in America now. I don't know. We got to do something different.
That's the thing.
Got to do something different. mental health is a huge problem, and it's not getting addressed equally. And even in the U.S. veteran community, prior to the Afghan guy, we had, I think, 2 vets go commit mass shootings in American vets, like in the 6 weeks leading up to that. Like this, mental health is a huge, huge problem right now.
And you're right on that. It's almost the inability to change. Some people, at least on the political side, it's always like, well, how are we going to spin this so we get like a win out of it? Meanwhile, it's like, okay, just make a decision and let's make a change.
Yeah.
But even at the ground level, law enforcement, I'll be the first to be critical of law enforcement. It's like, how do we truly make a change and do something different, or at least we don't have to be involved in this space anymore. We can get other agencies involved. Yeah, you're 100% right.
None of us have all the answers, but I think when all of us come to the table together, we can probably find a pretty good solution. It may not be perfect, but what was it? Was it Patton that said a good solution violently executed today is better than a perfect solution a week from now?
Yeah,
We got to do something different. We got to do something. Like we're the 2 wealthiest nations in the entire world, and we've got a giant subset of our population out there suffering on the streets. There's no excuse for that. There's none.
I think there's people out there like yourself. We're just constantly working though, right? You're the guy walking up the hill with the 2 buckets of water, just carrying it and keep going. Like, we need people doing what you're doing, and going out there and looking to make some change. Just as we're coming up to the end of the time, I wonder if you could talk about I'll call her your daughter, because you brought her over here. But I really thought this was a very important story and a success story out of some of the work that you've been doing. Can you just talk a bit about that process of bringing her over and where she's at today?
Yeah, I'm going to speak in generic terms because after what happened in DC, there's a lot up in the air on the Afghan immigrants right now, legal or otherwise. But basically, this was the daughter of a U.S. ally, a commando, who reached out to us the day before Christmas 2021, so almost 4 years ago. Sent a voice. Well, she said she needed a safe house. I'm like, yeah, everybody needs a safe house, And I told my wife, I was like, no, we can't. We'd already spent our kids' college savings safe housing Afghans over there. And my wife goes, no, there's something different about this girl. We got to do something. I was like, okay. So we ended up safe housing her. Uh, a bunch of other organizations helped us move her out of Afghanistan into Pakistan. The girl taught herself Portuguese by watching YouTube videos, and went to the Brazilian embassy in Pakistan, who gave her a humanitarian visa, and then she was eventually able to get a visa to enter the United States lawfully. And so when we got her here, we realized she didn't have a plan at all. And she thought she asked for me to have somebody take her from God, where was she? San Diego to a shelter. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Got her a plane ticket. I was like, just come to Memphis. We'll figure something out. So that was a couple of years ago. And now she's a pre-medical student at Rhodes College in Memphis, and just absolutely kicking ass at life. She's hands down one of the most brilliant and resilient people I have ever met, ever. Like, she's just overwhelming desire to learn. She's just got a voracious appetite for knowledge. Sweetest person you'd ever meet, but she does not take shit from anybody. Little tiny girl. She is not going to. She is going to change the world one day. I can promise you
Yeah.
that.
I imagine with where she comes from, and then even growing up with the experiences you can lay on her, and she's definitely going to have a lot of life experience, and
Yeah.
be able to change things.
So once we get on the other side of what's happening right now, I want to come back on it. I'll tell you a whole lot more about her because I just made her story sound. I had to admit so much. Yeah. It's insane. Like, they really need to make a movie about this girl, and you'll understand why. I can't put her in danger right now because of what they're doing with the Afghan immigration issues. But yeah, she's amazing. She's absolutely amazing.
And that's a good place to wrap here. We'll definitely have to get you back on. There's lots more to talk about. I want to say thank you for what you do. and what Jess is doing, the organizations. I think you are, man, it was like a ray of light when I talk to you guys on here. And I really hope people take away from this, like some different ideas, reach out and just ask like, hey, how can we work together? So I think the partnerships are really big.
Yep. Man, I appreciate you having me on so much. I'd love to come back on anytime. You got a good thing going here, brother.
Thank you. Hang on the line for 2 seconds. Say bye offline. Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening in and following along with the discussions. Be sure to click the follow or subscribe button on your respective listening platform. Also, check out the Quiet Professional on X and Instagram under TQP780. And most importantly, please share where you can. Everyone has a part to play in getting these education and information pieces out there, so pass it along. Thanks again.